What's the most embarrassing thing a parent has done to you? Story 1. My mother insisted on seeing exactly what I bought for clothes to make sure they weren't too baggy until I went away to college. When I was 17, we were buying jeans at the Gap, and when I wouldn't basically do a fashion show for her for every pair of pants I tried on, she crawled her 58-year-old self under the door of the dressing room where I was trying them on. I'm a guy, and the dressing room had a line out the door. Everybody saw, everybody heard. Edit also, all of your jeans are in the laundry. Just wear a pair of mine. Edit to your waist is 2 inches above your belly button, not halfway between your belly button and your penis. Thanks, Mom. Story 2. Calling all the neighborhood moms one day when my younger brother noticed I was growing pubic hair at 12 years old. My mother made it a point of conversation to let all 10 moms know I was becoming a man, and the calls went on for about an hour and a half, because apparently puberty is that stimulating a conversation for the neighborhood. Ended up with a lot of such a little man comments from the neighborhood, and a couple of dads pulling me aside and letting me know that no one needed to know, as if I had something to do with it. Get it for silver, wow. Thank each and every one of you that responded. I tried to respond to as many people as I could. Story 3. My mom pulled up my skirt, causing me to involuntarily flash a room full of people at a Christmas dinner. I was absolutely mortified. She wanted to check for self-harm scars on my thighs, apparently. I've never self-harmed before. She should not be allowed to consume alcohol. Edit, to answer the FAQs and the replies, I was 18, and I was wearing underwear. Story 4. I went to school at an outpatient mental facility as a kid. It was Halloween, so the instructors let us paint our faces and do arts and crafts all day. I knew my mom didn't like Halloween for religious reasons, so I just gave myself a cat nose with whiskers and made sure not to write Happy Halloween on anything I made. When my mom came to pick me up, she screamed at me about how I knew better, made me go to the bathroom to wash my face, as well as made me throw away all the stuff I made in front of everyone. Edit, she's non-denominational Christian. Story 5. When I was really young, maybe 5 or so, my dad got into a conversation with the cashier of the movie rental place. I had to pee, but every time I tried to get his attention, he brushed me off. I ended up peeing myself, and he didn't notice until we got in the car, and it smelled like pee. At least he was apologetic when he asked why I didn't tell him, and I explained what happened. Edit, my top comment on any account I've ever had is about myself. This is the kind of Reddit that keeps me coming back. I told my dad about this, and how many people had parents do something similar, and he felt better about himself. Story 6. Tell everybody at Thanksgiving dinner at her boyfriend's house about my tween bout with anorexia. I didn't want to be there in the first place, and she just kept going on and on about how I had carrots for dinner for a year until I had to shout at her to stop. Story 7. I came home from school with head lice. Instead of telling the teacher, who would send a letter home to everyone without specifically naming which child they noticed had lice, my mother rang every person in my class that she had the phone number of. She would have a chat with the parent. Oh yeah, she has head lice, so you need to check your kid. I probably got it from someone in my class, and the whole class likely already had lice. But kids don't realize that, so the whole class were calling my dirty and saying I infected them. It was horrible. I was hysterically crying while she called people. Edit, didn't expect this to get noticed. So to address the concerns, she never did anything bad ever in my life except this. She kept saying, don't be stupid, I'm just telling their mothers so they can sort it, and presumably didn't expect them to tell their 7 or 8-year-olds who it was. Clearly someone did, because the whole class knew it was me by the next day. Seems there's a lot of comments below with similar stories of adults just having no clue about how oddly shameful it is to have lice when your little witch sucks. But kids will jump on anything to be mean sometimes. Story 8. My mom's done plenty of embarrassing things. However, the thing that jumps out the most would be what happened to my sister. She had been dating this guy for a year or two on and off, now normally not important. But for the story, Izzy's black and my family is English, so we're like paper white. This was all back when my sister and I were in high school. It was Christmas, he and some family friends were invited over, and everything was going great until it was time for gifts. My mom thinks she's hilarious. She gave my sister, who was a virgin, still a card pack of positions to try. Also, remember there were family friends there. She was already mortified by that. Worse was yet to come. He opens his gift, and it has something else in it, and a box of glow-in-the-dark condoms. Mom, it's so she can find you in the dark. Everyone laughs nervously. The fuck edit for those concerned how old my sister and her were at the time. Sorry, that's understandable. High school is pretty broad. They were in grade 12 seniors, so about 17, 18 at the time. Hope that clears everything up. Story 9. My mom and I used to try and embarrass each other. It was fun. One day we were at Safeway, and I was in the toilet paper aisle, and there was a very hot guy in there. As well, she held up a mega pack of toilet paper and yelled, "Hey, sweetheart, this will be perfect on your sensitive bum. How's your diarrhea right now?" I thought I would die. Story 10. In like 5th grade, there was this girl I was friends with, and we would always joke around and make fun of each other. So one day my mom was picking me up from school, and me and the girl were walking out together, and she said, "See you tomorrow, Dumbo." I had big ears as a kid. Thankfully, I grew into them. My mom heard her say that and wasn't having any of it. She stormed over and started yelling at her, saying things like, "Don't ever talk to my kid like that again. How would you like it if kids made fun of the freckles on your face?" She started bawling. I was so embarrassed my mom was yelling at this innocent little girl in front of dozens of kids. We left, and I didn't talk to my mom at all on our way home. "Thanks, Mom. I love you, but that was mean." Story 11. I have aggressive Crohn's that started showing up around 8th grade. My mom took me to all of my DR appointments, which were all pretty embarrassing because no teenage boy wants their mom involved in there. But related illness, one particular visit, we were about halfway through the appointment when she whipped out a Cool Whip tub. Turns out the following night, I used the bathroom, and it didn't all go down, so she thought it would be helpful to load that up in our poor people Tupperware and haul it on into the DR. So he could look it over. He had the confused "what am I supposed to do with" in a Cool Whip tub face for a good 5 to 10 seconds, then politely dismissed it. Could have thought that there isn't any medical knowledge to be gained from fishing out of the toilet, refrigerating it overnight, and schlepping it up for an office visit. Story 12. She Googles my boss' phone number, called him in his office, asked him to put me on the phone in his office. I was in a meeting with a client. I didn't answer her call on my cell phone. In the middle of a work day, she wanted to about my stepfather and wanted to talk now. No emergency or anything. She just wanted to talk and gave zero about the consequence of her actions as per usual. And that's the day my boss and pretty much the entire company lost respect for me. When the mom of their coworkers called him on his boss' office to talk about personal, a few months later, I resigned. There was nowhere to go in that place anymore. Story 13. When I was in my early 20s and living at home, my father took a business call for me. People say we sound exactly alike on the phone. So when he was mistaken for me, he ran with it and was into the caller. I probably lost out on a low 4-figure amount of money because of it. I used to think it was because he didn't approve of who I was dating at the time. But after events in recent years, I think he was just letting his side shine because of the opportunity to do so. Story 14. I've mentioned it before on our AskReddit, but when I was 11, I was taken in for questioning regarding drug distribution out of our house. My dad had marijuana growing in the basement, and he used and sold it to neighbors and friends. When the police raided the house my dad was at work, they asked me if I knew what was in the room. Because I had knowledge of it, I guess it was enough to bring me in for questioning, even cuffed me, and everything. My dad didn't show up for almost 8 more hours. As you can imagine, in a small town like the one I grew up, people talked, and I lived next to a massive apartment complex. I was the talk of the town for almost 2 years because of it. My poor inbox. Story 15. After I submitted a job application to a manager when I was 16, my mother barged up and started going on and on about how I was really shy and not much of a people person. Yeah, that's what a manager wants to hear about an applicant for customer service. Story 16. When I was a senior in high school, I had left the lights on in my truck all day and had to call my dad to come jumpstart my car. Now my father is 61 and has a very large belly, rolls up in cloth shorts, and no shirt to jumpstart my car. Then there was the time a few years earlier that my mother had sent him up to school to give me a sandwich before a football game. The man's boxers were longer than his shorts. I had C-cup when I was 11 years old. My mom loved to loudly talk about them to anyone who would listen. Yeah, she's only 11. You wouldn't think from the way she's filled out up top. Her. Then ID start crying from the humiliation and Shed tell me to lighten up. Story 17. Every time I made a mistake, big or small, my mom would tell my grandma. Then my grandma would proceed to tell the entire family. So when we had meetups, I would never hear the end of it. On top of that, that same grandma would always tell me I didn't know anything and proceed to tell others I didn't know anything if I didn't have an answer to something I had to wait for example. My work schedule, I'm still insecure about that to this very day. Edit. I really hope you guys, gals, and all those in between or outside are doing okay. Made me realize that family can be super up. Jesus Christ. Story 18. To preface this, my mom has a way with words. As in, she doesn't always know what a word means, but uses it anyway, or she mispronounces things quite frequently. So I have this psychotic hatred of feet and have had it for as long as I can remember. Not really sure why. Anytime feet are brought up, my mom never fails to tell whoever she is talking with that I have a foot fetish. We have tried to explain to her what that actually means, yet she does not seem to get it. I am 35 now, and this has been going on for at least 25 years. It is kind of mortifying. My 2 little brothers find it hilarious, and thus I am known as the foot fucker. Edit. My first Reddit silver on a post about my mom telling friends and family that I am a podiatry enthusiast. Noise, and thank you for the gold kind Reddit to her. Story 19. Mom made me call my 8th grade social studies teacher at home to ask if I could use him as a job reference. He lived with his parents still, and I asked for him by first name, He waited for me in my locker the next day to tell me never to phone his house again, parents' house, and never call him by his first name again. Didn't get the job either. Mom denies this ever happened and claims she would never demand I do something so strange. Story 20. My mom was pretty up, so I have an endless list. The one that comes to mind right now is the time she sent me to go pick my younger brother from the pool. I, being a 13 years old active kid, joined him and started playing with his friends instead. I guess she got tired of waiting for me and decided to come to the pool to check up on us. She came and found me in the pool, yes, wearing regular clothes, shame on me, playing Marco Polo with the guys. She yelled my name, took her slipper off, and threw it on my head. Then she went on calling me for swimming with guys. Every guy there went quiet. I think the silence was one of the most unbearable thing. Still prickles my skin when I think about it. I was so embarrassed. I remember that walk home, my head down in shame. Can't believe I thought I did something wrong. Cried myself to sleep. What's funny is she didn't even ask my brother to come back with us, you mom. Am glad our relationship is better now, but you made my childhood a nightmare. You lots and lots of things. I was always sent to school with no school supplies, no Valentine's Day cards, and no snacks when it was my day to bring snacks, no birthday cupcake for the class, no notes saying I saw the DR before school started, and teachers took it out on me like I could drive myself to the store at 5 to 11 and pick these things up myself. Story 21. When I was young, we had a pajama day at school, but I always just wore my boxers to sleep. Well, obviously a kid can't show up to school in just underwear, but I was too little dumb to understand that. Why my mom allowed me to go and even drove me there, I have no idea. It was the most embarrassing day of my life, and the school had to call my parents to come pick me up halfway through the day to answer some questions. I was in elementary school, but I can't remember if it was first or second grade. And the school didn't notice or care until halfway, because I was eating lunch in the cafeteria and kids were staring at me. Some adult must have noticed then. Story 22. My dad, influenced partly by bad boys too, decided to mess with my boyfriend on my first date by acting like a hard dash. He filled a whiskey bottle with tea, and when he answered the door, he chugged the whole thing while staring my boyfriend down, then tried to break the bottle over his own head. The date was canceled due to the hospital trip, and I became known as the girl with the bat's hit insane father. Don't concuss yourself this time became the running joke once I was able to get a date again. Story 23. My mother dressed me and my sister as Nazis to a local fete. We sat on a float and waved at people. We won the competition, but I don't feel right about it. Story 24. When I was 5 or so, my pre-K did a play based on Noah's Ark. It was a pre-K attached to a church. We were instructed that our costume was supposed to be raincoats, rain boots, umbrellas. I didn't have any of those things, but begged my dad to get me at least one of them, so I fit in and follow the guidelines. Fast forward the night of the play. I'm frantically scanning the audience because my dad is always late. He finally shows up and brings me a life jacket. I had to stand up there with all the kids in their little raincoats and a life jacket. I was really embarrassed. Dad's defense was that I was the only kid who would have survived the flood. I can laugh now, but I sure wasn't laughing then. Edit, wow, my first silver. Thank you for the fancy Reddit bauble. Second, edit, holy macrame. Gold. It makes me happy that this glimpse into my strange childhood brought so many laughs. Story 25. My mom is the worst. She does it unintentionally. I'm 34, and we hang out a lot. In stores when we split up, I can hear her yelling my name from across the store. I've asked her 100 times to use her cell phone or look for me. I never hear anyone else's names being yelled out. It happens so much that I've stopped going out with her as much. Also, we had a family dinner with aunts, uncles, and cousins, and I don't know how it came up because I was in another conversation, but I heard her say, Jill and Eddie Forprez has a gynecologist appointment next week. Why? We were at a restaurant too. Everything went silent. Edit, I haven't had the gynecologist appointment yet. It's actually Monday, 2/25. Just a routine checkup. Everything should be fine. Appreciate the concern. Edit 2. This reminds me, I think my mom gets it from her dad. My grandpa, former master sergeant, who is loud, as we'll see a female family member, and be like, you got fat. He just say what comes to his mind out loud. We meet for dinner at a restaurant every Sunday. So I know everyone is hoping they don't get called out. One time he was in the middle of eating and yelled, wife, I am gonna myself, so he can't help but call himself out too. This will be me someday. When I was a senior in college, I was working a part-time job. They offered to make my current position full-time once I graduated. Before I got a chance to respond, my father found out and contacted my supervisor expressing concerns about the offer and the fact I was still in college. How my father found out still boggles my mind, but when my supervisor told me that my dad called him was probably the most embarrassing thing either of my parents have done. Edit, I spoke to my parents a few months after it happened, and the only thing they considered wrong with the situation was that my supervisor told me my dad called. Edit, another story for your entertainment. When I was in 7th grade and went to a youth conference with my church, All students got a free t-shirt, and people were signing each other's name on them. This one girl signed mine, dotted the I with a heart, and left her number. While I get home, my mom is doing my laundry and finds said number. Yep, you guessed it. My mother called the number and told the girl I needed to focus on education and didn't have time for girls. Story 26. My father was a huge racist and used pejorative terms to describe other people. I knew about the bad words for African Americans, Chinese people, and Japanese people, so I never said them. Little me didn't know about the other words. I used one in class to answer a question my history teacher asked, and he was properly horrified. I was immediately removed from class, and my confused was grilled for hours about my word usage. I finally said, I don't know what I did wrong. My dad says it all of the time to describe people from that country. They call my mom. I had to go home. There was a shouting match between my parents and my dad's mother that night, and I was beaten soundly by my father. Edit Jeff C. Fine. The word was Haji. Also, I learned that it might not be as bad as I was led to believe. Always learning something new on Reddit. Thanks, y'all. Story 27. Maybe not the most embarrassing, but certainly top 10. My mom went through this phase where she would talk during movies, specifically about what's going on in the movie. She was also terrible at paying attention to what was going on, so oftentimes what she was explaining was incorrect. In addition, she would try to talk over the movie. Mom would occasionally have to yell to make sure she was heard over the action scenes. Imagine, if you will, watching the aftermath of the stampede scene from The Lion King and the person next to you yelling Simba is sad because her dad died. Story 28. My parents, Southeast Asian, told one of my best friends who was a girl and Caucasian behind my back that if she was the same ethnicity as them, they would ask me to marry her. I'm sure they thought this would be very flattering. I found out later, and to this day, over a decade later, still makes me cringe big time. Edit when a lot of people are asking me if my parents are racist. They are not. This is a cultural thing. I have been married to my Caucasian wife for many, many years, and they love her. Story 29. A long time ago, my dad was a policeman in one of the British forces, and not some headed flatfoot, but the taser-wielding, fast car chase sort. One morning, he's doing a morning shift on patrol in a big Land Rover with all the toys of that era multi-band radio broadcast unit, tannoys, and, best of all, a rear programmable LED board so that you can type messages to the car behind you. Thinking, at the age of 15, that it would be awesome to get a ride to school in one, I readily accept his offer of a lift, which he wasn't supposed to do, but who cares? It was all smiles and gloats as he pulls into the car park, watching my peers and enemies gape their jaws at such a majestic vehicle. I jumped out, try and pass off a Bloss cheers dad, slam the door, and nonchalantly stride off towards my comrades. 5 seconds later, the sirens blurp out a high-pitched squeal. I turn to look at the departing van and see on the LED board, Daddy loves you 2XXX. You simply cannot imagine the I put up with at school for the next 3 years. All policemen are bastards. Story 30. When I was 8 years old, I was obsessed with the new Charlie's Angels movie with Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore. There's a scene in the movie where Drew is dressed in a patriotic jumpsuit at NASCAR racetrack, and I really wanted to have that outfit for my Halloween costume. My mom is a costumer, and, God bless her, made my costume from scratch to resemble Drew's jumpsuit. Well, as you can probably imagine, an 8-year-old girl does not have the cleavage to fill that jumpsuit out, so my mother decided to add massive fake to this costume. I was mortified, and for some reason, she would not take them out. So for Halloween that year, I had my arms crossed all a trick or treating. I still look back at the pictures from that year with deep anxiety. Edit adding quality pic of shame. Story 31. So I'm not the most fashionable guy, but I really like winter coats and try to get the most fashionable ones I could find, so I usually had a few that I rotated through each season. Well, when I was maybe 20 or so, we were going through old clothes to donate what we didn't need, and a friend of the family was going to come pick them up. I had several coats on my pile, and when a friend came to get them, she commented on that. My mom says, "Oh, he just has a coat fetish." Everyone was super uncomfortable, and I tried explaining that I just liked them. It wasn't a fetish. My mom apparently thought a fetish just meant you really like something. Didn't understand or believe when it was explained that it was. She then told me she had mentioned my coat fetish to multiple people before. Thanks, Mom. People probably think I creep around Burlington Coat Factory now. Story 32. When I was 10 or so, I was struggling with being too big for kids' clothes and too skinny for most juniors' clothes. I was trying on this dress with a mesh area around the neck in the department store dressing room, and it was so big on me that my nipples literally showed through the mesh part that was supposed to be around my collarbones. Kids that age are moody, so I just lost it in frustration and started crying. My mom was like, "Oh, just let me see," but I didn't want her to see because that meant showing the whole fitting area of my nipples. Finally, I showed her, and when she saw how upset I was, instead of comforting me, she decided to mimic me. fake cry in my voice, saying, "Oh my God, everyone can see my nipples," and flash everyone in the dressing room. Story 33 on my mother. When I was 23, 24, I was doing an internship and was talking to a guy back home. When I got home and we finally met, I took him to my mom's school. So she can say, "Hi, I have no idea why I thought this was a fun idea," she told me. Oh, no one is there last day of school, so not many people come up. So when I took the guy and myself to my mom's school and went to her classroom, I opened the door and it was packed. She sees me and yells, everyone, this is my daughter, and this is my daughter's special friend." I'm melted into the floor. Story 34. For those who didn't grow up in a time where you shared a phone with multiple extensions with your parents, consider yourselves lucky. For those who did, me, hi, it's Cage. I was wondering if you're going to go to the mall tomorrow. Girl, I liked them. Yeah, I think so. It's Saturday, so I usually go with my friends. Me, well, if you're there, do you want to meet somewhere and have lunch? Girl, I liked them. Yeah, that sounds good. Where do you want to go? Me, well, I was thinking, click numbers, dial mom, hello. Me yelling upstairs, I'm on the phone. Mom through the phone. Cage, are you on the phone? I was calling my friend Riva. She's having some people over tomorrow, and I wanted to know if she wanted any potato salad. Me yelling upstairs, I'm on the phone with girl I liked. Get off. Mom, if you want, I can make a little extra so you can take it to judo. I know how you get tired after class, so I hope I get to go this week. You look so handsome in your judo outfit. Click me, sorry. My mom could be so embarrassing. Mom, I don't think she's there anymore. Honey. Story 35. I was 13 and waiting for a ride with my sister and parents at Dollywood. Across the way, two very pretty girls about my age were smiling at me. I smiled back and acted all cool, because I was a skater boy with skater hair and my Vision Street wear and some shirt with a skull on it or something. It was working too. The girls whispered to each other and giggled, and one even waved at me. Then my mom reached her hand in my face and popped a pimple right there public. The girls were aghast. I was humiliated. I have never forgiven her. Story 36. One time a pigeon shat on my grandma after church when the service was over. You suck her at the top of her lungs as the priest was shaking hands with people outside. I was 6. Thanks for the upvotes, everyone. Glad you all enjoyed the story. Story 37. My mom and dad would always tease me about female friends of mine, and if they ever saw me with one, they would mock me and say something like, "Oh, look who has a girlfriend." This caused me to not develop any female friends in future and hurt my dating life for years and years and years. I used to hold a lot of resentment for that because I wanted to avoid the bullying and teasing so badly. Story 38. It was my 16th birthday, and my family went to a fancy Italian restaurant. The staff came over to sing happy birthday to me, and my dad started singing along loudly in a bad Italian opera kind of accent. We're not Italian. The staff was so stunned they just stopped singing. The other customers around us laughed and applauded, and the staff just walked away. I was mortified. Story 39. 10th birthday. School is holding a McDonald's fundraiser. Everyone is there. Sister works at the McDonald's and gets you a special cake for your birthday. Life is peaking. Mom is carrying out the cake with everyone from my class watching and drops the cake straight on the ground. Not only is 10-year-old me devastated, but my mom then proceeds to start scooping cake off the floor onto plates and insisting that people eat it. Mom isn't allowed to carry cakes anymore. Story 40. My mom sent in pictures of my awkward middle school page for the baby picture section of my senior yearbook. Everyone else had pictures from the ages of 0 to 5. Mine were middle school aged when I just looked generally awkward and terrible. To this day, I have no idea what she was thinking or how she misunderstood the point of those pages so badly. The worst part is that I moved to a new town junior year, so the people I graduated with never would have known about my awkward middle school phase if it weren't for that yearbook, which everyone will keep and look back on for the rest of their lives. I burnt mine. Story 41. When I was 3, we were on vacation in Cancun, and apparent ally. I lost my swimming pants at the pool. Although I don't remember the actual incident, every family gathering they bring up how I ran around screaming hello to random people with my pants off and flopping around. They apparently let me do this all day until the security reprimanded them. 16 years later, and they're still bringing it up. Story 42. Had my first boyfriend in middle school and brought him home one time. At one point, my mom made him bring me my clean laundry. And by that, I mean a single pair of pink High School Musical underwear. I cried from embarrassment, but he was actually pretty cool about it and comforted me. Then he cheated on me. Story 43. I had a male friend come over after school, and my best friend neighbor was going to join soon after they were dating at the time. Anyway, we get off the bus, start walking down the alleyway, and notice my mom pull out of the driveway. So we walk up to the car, and I ask where she's going. Mom, we're heading to the grocery store. Did you need anything? Me, no, I think I'm good. Mom, okay, well, I noticed the cucumber in your room was looking a bit soft, so I'll grab you another one. My friend looked like he was about to himself. Story 44. I went to a funeral either in middle school or high school for one of my grandparents on my dad's side. When we got there, One of his old friends was there, and so was his old friend's daughter, who was really hot at my age. I immediately thought, holy, she's hot. Well, apparently my dad did too, because next thing I knew, he mentioned out loud right next to her and about 3 other people that I must think she's gorgeous and that I should talk to her or something along those lines. Then realizing what just happened and said, oops, I think I embarrassed him, while I forced myself to laugh it off as the girl did too. Needless to say, I was extremely pissed at him in my head. Still don't look back at this moment and laugh. Also, I was pretty short when this took place, so the chances of it working out were slim to none. But still, what the dad? Story 45 bought me a diary, encouraging me to write in it. Later stole said diary, broke the lock off, forged a bunch of made-up crushes in there, and then read it aloud at the dinner table to humiliate me. My mother was not very kind. Story 4619, walking on the boardwalk with my mom while on vacation, glancing at all the butts in swimsuits. Mom catches me looking, then loud enough for everyone in a 30 span to hear, just go talk to her. Story 47, when I was a little kid out of diapers already, I don't remember how old I was, but I pissed myself while the neighbors were over, so my mom took my soaked jeans off in front of them and tied them around my face. Edit. Y'all, I'm getting a lot of notifications for questions or comments, but I can't reply or read any of them, sorry. I don't know what's wrong. I'm not ignoring y'all. I just can't access the comments, sorry again. Story 48, sorry, this is a long one, but this will always stick with me until the day I die. So, I really liked this one girl in my high school, and I was always hoping we would talk someday, but I was a shy, quiet person. So one day we were all waiting around in the hall, and she started going off about her ex-boyfriend and stuff, and I was just there listening and watching. She looks at me and randomly says, acid hologram, will you buy my boyfriend? My clench so tight, but I was able to smoothly say, sure, why not? And she just laughed and said, okay. So later in the day, I somehow gained the courage to ask her for her number since I'm her new, and she smiled and said she wasn't being serious, but would actually like to talk to me. She says she's been wanting to, but I just never asked. Holy, my mind was going absolutely insane around this time. So I took her number and walked away without saying anything, because in me, and we'll say some stupid to this up, fast forward to that night, I'm at home and was going to grab the telephone to give her a call, and my mom asked what I was doing. I let her know I was calling a friend to talk for a few minutes, but she just said no, didn't give me a reason, just said no, and took the phone back. Now, my mom was going through bad menopause at the time, so she was a really mean, unstable, and emotional person for most of my teenage years. Anyway, I asked her about it, and she said I'm not allowed to talk on the phone. I wasn't in trouble, just wasn't allowed on it, so I did what any teenage does and waited until she fell asleep to go get the phone. So I give her a call, and she says she's happy to hear from me and that we can finally talk without our friends bothering us. We talk about the teachers, friends, our schedules, and her general life, etc. I'm really just agreeing and laughing at this point, because I'm just in utter shock that I'm actually speaking with her. Well, I'm guessing my voice or laughter carried over to my mother's room, and she burst through the door so hard that I jump up and drop the phone. Loud as any person can be. Why are you on the phone? I told you're stupid, you can't use the phone. Why are you on the phone? I was not expecting that outburst at all, so I just said I was asking a friend for help on homework. She says, I don't give a. I told you not to be on the phone, and now you're talking with your friends. Who are you talking to so late? For some reason, I gave her the girl's name and not like another male friend. She was turning pretty much red at this point. You don't listen to me, and now you're on the phone with some. I don't want to know calling our house. Hang up right now. And tell that don't ever call here again. She slams the door shut, and I look down to see that the call is still connected. My heart dropped. She heard the whole thing. So I pick up the phone and sheepishly say, hello. She only said, wow. That was, okay. See you later, and hung up. The next morning, she avoided me like the plague. She never talked to me again after that, and we never spoke on the phone again. A part of my soul died that night, and I don't think it will ever be fully restored. So many times. One time when I was around 10, the whole family went to Six Flags over Texas. I rode the Texas Giant 8 times in a row with my dad. I asked my mom if she wanted to go on it with me, even though she didn't like rides. We rode it. As we were finishing up the ride, and it is slowly coming to a stop, she starts punching me in the side of the head, back of the head, wherever she could get me. She said it was my fault that she hated it. Everyone around us got really quiet, and she yelled at me the rest of the way out until we were out of the park. I have never ridden it again. Kind of ruined it for me.